Hello, everybody.
Yo, what's going on?
Welcome to Anime Mystics Podcast, or today, Movie Mystics
The Movie
Podcast.
Mystics, yes.
I'm Roman,
I am Steven Sonosuke-sama.
and today we are joined by a guest, future, hopefully big-time director, Eduardo Castillo. Go ahead and say hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening.
I believe you have, 4 or 5 movies out?
I have 5 movies out, and then 2 on their way.
Okay. And a
And
couple of...
one more that I produced that someone else directed that should be on its way this year too.
Oh, nice.
Man.
So you've got experience both directing, producing, acting. You got a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, I mean, I went to school for all of it. You know, I took all the classes, and you know what I mean. It allows me to be creative in different ways, so I kind of partake in every single one.
Nice.
And multiple genres, too. It's not that you were just like, oh, I'm just going to be all action or all mystery. You had a very diverse range
Yes.
of types, of movie types.
You know, at first I thought so. But then when it kind of came down to it, like, especially now with the projects I'm working on right now this year and stuff, I kind of looked at it and I was like, it's kind of like 50% sports films and 50% horror, which are 2 completely different things. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like I'm starting to kind of find my style, you know, especially
Right.
in this latest one. Of like a lot of the jokes and the way the characters are. I'm like, you know, I think I have my own distinct style. Interesting.
I did kind of notice that it was you did have like the way you use the camera and stuff is kind of different from most other directors.
Yeah.
Like you have your own way of doing it, and it does. You can look at it and go, oh, I know who this is, who's directing this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess, you know, when you work with the same kind of actors and the same team, cinematographer, and like, you know, sound and stuff like that, you get into a rhythm that's, you know, it's comfortable, but then at the same time, you know, all the stories are different. You know, we
Right.
challenge ourselves in that, and you know, trying to make those different to where we can still grow, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes. So I guess we should start from the beginning then. Like, what made you want to be a director and work on movies?
I guess, I don't know, when I was young, let's say young, I would say middle school, high school, I guess I always thought I was going to go into comic books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always thought, you know, I was going to go into comic books, at least, you know, drawing them or whatever, but then I guess at a certain age I discovered I had no talent, and so I went into film.
That happens.
I was like, hey, I can't draw for shit. Like,
Yeah.
but I could still, you know, come up with stories and then tell people how to act like the characters and then shoot them with the camera, and that's I guess what kind of happened.
Right. Awesome. Because I do know, like, you say, like, middle school, high school, it's like every time, like, if you're really young, you're always like, oh, I want to be a baseball player, I want to be this, and it's...
Those phases of what you want your adult life to be.
And then when you finally reach, like, the age you were, it's like, yeah, I finally know what I want, and you go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember the exact moment. It was funny because it was freshman year of high school, and I was on the football team.
Okay.
And I remember, you know, we were, you know, spent all summer practicing, and, you know, you're with the guys and doing all this macho stuff, whatever. And then, you know, we had a little bit of ego.
Right.
And I remember we would skip out on Friday practice, which was totally bad because games were on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I would skip out on Friday practice to go see the new movie that would come out. You know, and so, you know, we went to go see, like, Underworld. We went to go see Freddy vs. Jason. And then I remember, like, the week after that, Once Upon a Time in Mexico came out.
Oh, yeah.
And when I saw that in theaters, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want to make something just like this, and I didn't give a shit about football anymore. Like, it was just, You know, and I remember my coach, he's like, you lost all intensity. Like, you know, we're not to fix you. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't care anymore. Like, when I saw that movie, I was like, this is so badass. Like, I really want to make something this cool. And I guess you can kind of see that, like, you know, that kind of style reflected in, you know what I mean, what I'm trying to do now, where it's just
Right.
kind of fun and, you know, things like that, and hopefully one day I can make something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, he'd be like, sorry, coach, I had my epiphany. And
Right.
and yeah, no, and what's funny is that's Robert Rodriguez, right? Once Upon a Time.
Mhm.
And,
Yes, sir.
him, he actually has almost like similar roots like you, because you know you're on Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and you go and watch like El Mariachi, and it has that, you know, that gritty indie style to it. But you could see the foundations. You know, and then and like you said too, look at him now. He's working with James Cameron on Battle Angel Alita. So, you know, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
crazy. Like, when you look at it now, just like this last year, like, he worked on James Cameron Battle Angel Alita, which is like, you know, a $250 million anime, you know,
Yeah.
feature, which is probably regarded as one of the best anime adaptations. There
Right.
hasn't been a lot of good ones,
Right.
but this one was like, hey, this one was pretty accepted, you know, well, favorably by the audience.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, Antonio Banderas is nominated for an Oscar tonight. Like,
Oh, is
that's
he?
crazy.
Yep. Yep.
You know?
Yep. Absolutely.
So it's just like, hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. He did was like a Spanish movie, and it was like
Yeah.
he just nailed it. And it was like the last time I saw Antonio Banderas was like Expendables 3. and now and now he's up for an Oscar.
Which he was fantastic in.
Yeah.
That's part of that movie.
Yeah.
But that was almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's crazy. And you know, if you were gonna pick an inspiration or someone that gave you that momentum or that push, it might as well be Robert Rodriguez.
Right, you
His,
know.
if I'm not mistaken, he was also Sin City, right? Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did, Robert Rodriguez is Sin City.
Yeah. So man, that's someone that you want to be inspired by. Absolutely. And actually,
I have a Sin City poster on my wall that's autographed by Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez.
wow,
Nice.
Actually, I don't know if I told you, I did meet him when I was about 15.
Oh, did you?
14, 15 years old. Yeah. It was, about a year after that, he was at Comic-Con supporting, promoting the Sin City release.
Right.
And I remember, you know, we couldn't get, you know, like, they had, like, you know, the raffle drawings or whatever to get autographs by him. And we didn't win, but me and my sister waited outside the booth to meet him. And, like, you know, they had a bunch of security, like, for the girls, you know, Jessica Alba and Rosario, you know,
Right.
once those passed off, you know, then Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, like, they started walking out. And, like, we were chasing, you know, I wanted to get an autograph. And my sister got through, but I got clotheslined by the security.
Oh.
You know, I got clotheslined and I got knocked down. But Frank Miller helped me up, and I didn't know who he was at the time, or else I would have freaked out too. But then he helped me up, you know, and walked me over to Robert Rodriguez, and you know, he signed my Once Upon a Time in Mexico DVD and like said thank you and everything like that. And I was like, well, I guess that was my moment.
man.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that's a crazy chain of events.
Yeah. So I got to meet a few of my director heroes. I got to meet him, George Romero, Sam Raimi this past year.
Oh, nice.
You know.
Did you hear they're trying to get him to direct the new Doctor Strange?
Yeah. I think it would be perfect. He's just such a friendly, humble guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like, you know, he was thanking me to meet me. Like, he was just so humble. He was just the best, man. Like, Sam Raimi, he's the guy. I'll follow him into any movie he makes. I don't care.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've liked every movie I've seen from him.
All three Spider-Mans?
I did. I
Okay.
mean, I enjoyed the third one. It wasn't the best, but still, it was
I'm in the
enjoyable.
same boat. I think that it gets a lot more hate than it deserves. I was like, it was a good attempt. It was good.
Yeah.
So.
I told him I loved the part 3, and he didn't believe me. I had to like stand there and try to convince him for 5 minutes that yes, I enjoy part 3.
Oh man, oh that poor guy. He's been told so much that part 3 sucks that now he just believes it. Oh man.
Yeah, like, but if you watch like all the Spider-Man movies in a row, you start to miss, like, you know what I mean, everything that was in part 3.
Yeah.
You miss the music.
Yeah.
You miss the world he built. You know, the characters, the Russian landlord. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all these people are just fantastic, and you know, you don't get them in the other ones. It sucks.
Absolutely, I totally agree, and you know, Bruce Campbell is always an underrated gem. You know, when he shows up, it's just a good time.
Yeah.
So.
He was at the convention too, but I didn't meet him.
No, it's all good. Priorities.
His line was longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I believe it. I would, when I used to work at Walden Books in Denver, Colorado, my assistant manager said he was out there doing an autograph signing, I guess because his book came out. And she said that there was a bunch of kids in cowboy costumes because of Briscoe County Jr.
Yeah,
Funny.
Briscoe County.
Yeah, I was like, man, that was a throwback. So,
that's hilarious.
So,
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, but man.
Oh man. Do you go to Comic-Con often, or do you just like any chance you get?
You know, last year I think I went to like 3 Comic-Cons and like 3 horror cons.
Oh, awesome.
And so, yeah, I try to keep, you know, I try to go to as many as possible. I think I might take a break this year, though. I think I might just go to like 1 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm filming, you know. I started kind of early this year, but yeah, last year I wanted to go to, you know, pretty much as many as possible because I had the Pining releasing.
Okay.
And I wanted to, you know, hand out posters or, you know, meet people and things like that. And,
right.
you know, even if you go and you spend, you know what I mean, who knows if I'm going out of state or whatever, or getting a booth, or, you know what I mean? Like, if you meet 1 or 2 people and, you know, you click and then they follow you and they support your projects and stuff like that, it's completely worth it. I mean,
totally.
You know, you meet people to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely,
but
absolutely.
If they end up supporting your work, you know, that's also good. But, you know, making friends, I guess, is the goal, too.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because when you have a friend versus a customer, they'll love you to the ends of the earth. They'll always support you, and they'll be down. And even if they don't watch all your movies, they'll still tell you, go check it out to other people. And that word of mouth will definitely get you more exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, and you know what I mean? It's like just thinking that, yeah, you know, somebody who either I just met or there's people who I haven't met and they spent 2 hours of their life, you know what I mean, that they'll never get back just to watch something that I created. Like, God, how can I not be humbled by that? Like, I'm completely thankful.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Like,
absolutely.
You know?
I'm gonna actually, we're like, what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes into this? I'm gonna hit you with a hardball question now. So,
Sure.
Mr. Martin Scorsese has insulted comic book movies and said that they're not actual movies or real movies. Considering that you are a comic book fan and a movie director / producer, what are your comments on that?
I mean, here's the thing. So, like, the first movie, I don't know if people know, like, the first movie was, like, 8 seconds of them shooting, like, a train pulling up to a stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And then that was cinema.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can that be cinema and none of this can be cinema?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I feel like what he was saying was kind of taken out of context a little bit, to where a lot of movies are now, you know what I mean? We can tell the difference between, like, a movie made by a creative team and one made by executives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
just for example, I'm going to throw this one under the bus. Like, you can tell the difference between Pacific Rim and Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yes.
You can completely tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, one was created by Del Toro, like, as this, you know, kaiju, you know, giant robot type love, you know what I mean, to that genre.
Yeah.
Versus part 2, which was a complete cash grab, and you know what I mean, executives throwing like, hey, we got to have some Chinese people in here to get Hong Kong, you know, their market value, and then we got to put in, you know what I mean, like the teenage young girl to get that demographic, and then we got to do this, and then we got to do that, and it just, none of it flowed, and it was probably the worst experience I ever had in the movie theaters. It was just so, it was Poochie the movie. I don't know if you guys remember that character from The Simpsons.
Poochie, yes. Poochie died on his way back to the home planet.
Yes, it was them trying to do all these things, and it just didn't click. Now, I think what Scorsese was saying, you know, he still wants to fight for, you know, the art house cinema and things like that versus pre-packaged, you know what I mean, Poochie stuff, which he might think is Marvel, but I feel like a lot of it is not, you know what I mean? Because a lot of it, you know what I mean, these Marvel creators, especially the writers and artists of the books, you know, they're not making millions of dollars, you know what I mean? Like, they spent years developing stories for these characters, and just finally seeing them, you know what I mean, in this light, it's fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I didn't really take what he said too badly, though, like Scorsese.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he's from, like, an old school generation where they made, like, The Godfather and stuff like that. People went to go see stories, and it's not like you're not getting that with Marvel, but I guess he feels like it's more of just a spectacle.
Yeah.
Because now it's all CG, and you're getting explosions and this and that, and he kind of, I guess, feels like it's not focusing too much on a story.
Right. So
I kind of get what he says.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, it's if you like sat down and just kind of watched him, he might get a better appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then, you know what I mean, he's 70-something years old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
come
on, like, you know what I mean? This stuff's not going to interest him anymore. Who cares? Like,
yeah. I think that the other thing too is that when he was making movies in like the 70s and 80s and whatnot, coming up with these big giant stories that cover 10 years worth of movies, they never really thought about that back then. They cranked out a movie and that was about it. It was a self-contained story. You know, we had a Godfather trilogy because there was multiple books written, so there's plenty of material. But this whole.
And you also got to remember, like, during this time, you know, those guys were fighting tooth and nail just to get like a $5 million budget to make their stuff, you know, and win Oscars or whatever. Yeah. Now it's like some young punk can go and like, oh, here's $200 million for your comic book movie. Like, that's got to be a little bit. Like, you know, like, come on.
Yeah.
That's some bullshit.
And Robert Downey Jr. takes 150 of that. Oh!
Right? Yeah, you know, he's got to get some of his. He's got to make those Doolittle movies.
That's right. Oh, man. Doolittle, Sherlock Holmes, same difference. So anyways. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that at you. I wanted your take on that, but thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah. I guess a question I would go, and kind of the same with the comic book thing. If you were given the opportunity to do a comic book movie, what comic would you choose?
The Crew.
The Crew? Okay.
Yeah, it was like an old Black Panther spin-off with a bunch of pretty much like all his, like, you know, secondary characters. Only lasted like a few issues, but it was like a team headed up by Rhodey.
Okay.
And it was kind of like it was like a heist book, you know, but with superheroes. And I was like, and I freaking loved it. You know, I loved the old Black Panther book by Priest, and so when he wrote this, you know, I picked it up, and it was amazing. And it sucks that nothing kind of ever happened with, like, because of course they rebooted the character and everything like that.
Right.
But yeah, all the stuff, you know, from the early 2000s that, you know what I mean, Priest did. I really enjoyed that book, and I was like, you know, this would this would be great. Like, it wouldn't be a hit because, you know, I mean, how many heist stories are like big hits?
Right.
But it would be fun to do. And I guess that's pretty much in line where, you know, what I would love to do. Other than that, you know, I mean, I just like, I kind of just like watching them. My favorite character, you know, would be Daredevil, but I don't think I could ever make, like, you know, a Daredevil show, or
Right.
at least a movie. I think it would work better as an anime. I would personally
okay.
love to see a Daredevil anime, but
Yo.
who knows if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those Marvel animes. Either the ones made by Japan or the ones that have been made here in the States. I never really... And I've seen a couple of the DC animated ones, and those ones always get high marks. But yeah.
DC does a
Yeah,
good job with
sure.
their animated movies.
Probably, yeah, most of the time better than their live action.
Yeah. The only thing is I haven't kept up because I feel like they release a lot of them, but I haven't kept up because I kind of get confused. I'm like, did I watch this one yet? Or no, I'm like, because they're always like, you know, Justice League or Superman ones, and I'm like, I'm confused. Like, which ones did I watch already?
Right, absolutely.
You know, I'm still waiting on. I guess they're supposed to do like a Batman Beyond one, and we haven't gotten it yet. Like that one, I would go. You know what I mean? Like opening day.
Right.
I think that Batman Beyond they're keeping on the back burner until they really need it, and then they'll crank it out and make an easy, like you said, 200 mil on it.
Yeah, no, I'm so down for Batman Beyond.
Yeah. And what's interesting is about the Black Panther, the Crew comic you said, what I was thinking about it is like they probably could do it and they absolutely have the resources to, but they would have to be like, well, how does this fit into the MCU? And it's like, it wouldn't. It would be a standalone story. And that's why they'd be like, pass.
Like, you know, and it kind of sucks. That sucks what happened with the MCU. I mean, you know, we got good movies out of it, but then it sucks that everything has to just be part of that. Like,
Right.
I remember some people were complaining about the Morbius trailer. You know, oh, Morbius is not part of the MCU, and I'm like, that's a good thing. Like, now we have a different voice to do the horror. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Right.
yeah.
I don't want to see Marvel do Morbius. I want to see, you know what I mean? That Morbius trailer I thought looked fantastic, and I'm like, I kind of want to see different voices, you know, different characters and things like that. Like, I don't want to I don't want to see Morbius in Avengers 5. Like, you know, I'd rather just see the movie and, like, some other horror characters, you know what I mean? Like, and then I'll be good, but, yeah, I don't want to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Freaking Hellstrom, Son of Satan in Avengers 5. Like, no, it's ridiculous.
So, you actually brought up an interesting point. So I have two questions in regards to your thoughts on the Morbius thing. One, so you mentioned Morbius in the MCU, and then they showed the Michael Keaton's Vulture. So what does that
Right.
mean, or what do you think that means then? Is it MCU or is it not MCU?
I think it was a smart play on Sony because they probably made like $50 million just by showing him Michael Keaton alone. Like,
Yeah.
people want to see, like, hey, I know this character, I know that guy, I like him, I want to go see him again.
Right? Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it was, you know, Sony saying, hey, you know, we still own Spider-Man, so don't forget about that shit.
That's
Yeah.
a good point. That is a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess my other question is in regards to Morbius. So we know that Jared Leto got super butthurt about him not being in Birds of Prey, and then of course Joker just being great without him, and then Joaquin Phoenix just, you know, embarrassing him. But then he goes and he does Morbius, and at least the trailer looks pretty compelling. So it's like, do you think he should still be butthurt, or should he just be like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to run with this Morbius thing, and I'm going to show y'all that this is what I'm capable of?
You made a mistake.
Well,
there.
I think in the same regards, like, let's say the next Avengers movie has Hercules,
Okay.
and they cast Henry Cavill. Could we really blame Henry Cavill for taking that instead of trying to stay as Superman if they're never going to use him as Superman again? Like, it's a weird thing where DC was like, hey, guess what? You're going to be this character. We're going to build a whole universe. But the movie didn't do well, and so we're kind of just going to ignore your phone calls now. And it's kind of like, I mean, I feel like he was more hurt that, like, hey, you know what? You guys promised me work, and then, you know, disregarded me. But then these guys came over and offered me a good film. I'm going to take that. And I feel like I don't know. I hope that he's happier with Sony. You know, I'm not the biggest Jared Leto fan. I don't know a lot of people who are, but I feel like I'm gonna go see that movie opening weekend for sure.
Yes.
Versus I'd see Suicide Squad opening weekend. I didn't see Birds of Prey. I'm probably never gonna go see it. You know, I'm just saying, like, hey, you know, maybe he dodged the bullet.
Fair enough. Okay,
You know?
interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't know. I went in completely blind with Morbius. Because I wasn't sure if this was a rumor or if it was serious. And then it just like boom, trailer dropped, and I was like, all right, I guess we are doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because they keep saying that it's like, oh, like you said, Sony's all like, hey, we make superhero movies too. We own Spider-Man. And it's like, shut up, Sony. Put out another Spider-Man movie in the MCU. And then they're like, no, really, we got Morbius and Silver Sable. And it's like, no, you don't. Quit playing.
You know, yeah, and it's weird because Sony gets a lot of flack, but I'm like, they had Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. They had, you know what I mean? The Andrew Garfield ones are like the ones that are like disregarded.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, I mean, they got the 2 MCU ones, but then they have Venom, which made like 800 million worldwide.
Oh,
and they have
I love
Into
Venom.
the Spider-Verse, which won an Oscar. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, their track record is not as bad as people are saying. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I always find it funny that Venom did really well, but all I ever do is hear people bash that movie.
Bro, I thought it was better than Black Panther.
That's fine.
I'm not
Venom
saying
was
it's
exactly
like,
made for me. I am the audience of Venom.
right.
I'm
I'm
not
just
ashamed to say.
I'm just saying it did really well. People went and saw it and really enjoyed it and stuff, and all I ever do is hear people bash it, and I'm like, why? It did really.
Because it's not
apparently
MCU.
a good movie. Why am I all I seeing is hate?
What were you expecting?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, it's Venom. Go watch Venom. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I expect Scorsese to bash Venom, but were you expecting Scorsese movies? Like, no, this is Venom. Like,
Yeah. Man, it's
just enjoy the big monster. Tom Hardy acting crazy. Like, you'll have fun.
Yeah, and I agree. It's Tom Hardy just nailed it. He just did a fantastic Brock. And as, a Bay Area native, I just appreciated all the San Francisco fan service. You know
what's cool? What I discovered kind of around that time, because, it was Tom Hardy was like, you know what I mean, he's still a big star. But, when, like, they release a movie, and then all of a sudden you see all the Tom Hardy movies on, like, cable and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They had one called Minotaur, which was one of, his sci-fi channel, Tom Hardy movies that he did when he was, like, 28.
Sure.
And then, like, then Tony Todd was in the movie, and I was like, Tony Todd knows Tom Hardy? That is so cool.
Wow.
I was like, hey, I'm only like, what was it, 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon, but I'm like, I'm only like 2 degrees away from Tom Hardy. That's
So, can you holler at Tom Hardy real quick to come eat my brains? I would really appreciate that. I would really appreciate that.
Right?
Oh man, yeah.
But it's crazy because back when that came out, Tony Todd was the name that I'm sure got it sold to the Sci-Fi Channel. Now Tom Hardy's like the big 850 million Marvel Venom star.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. They cut that movie out like by the legs, like out the gate. They were like, "This is never gonna work. It's gonna be bad." And then it came out, and I actually watched Venom the night before I had to go to Japan. So my friend in Japan, he's all like, "Oh, I'm so jealous you got to see Venom," and I'm like, "Hell yeah, bro! It was great." Oh man, yeah.
All of Asia loved Venom. Like,
yeah, yeah.
They know.
They know. They know. Oh man, yeah, man. Now you got me hyped for Venom too. And so. That's another good thing. I want to ask you real quick. What do you think about that? So that was kind of like, I want to say the politics of it all. So Sony was doing a power play with Spider-Man, and Disney Marvel's doing a power play. What are your thoughts on that? Should they just like, should Sony stand tall, or should Disney loosen up, or should Disney be like, nah, it's all us. You're the bit player. What do you think about that? Especially as a director and your creativity.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things that's like out in the open that everybody knows Disney is a monopoly. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're a monopoly. They're buying up all the studios and intellectual properties and everything like that. And that used to be illegal for who knows how many years. And yet they're openly doing it. They're even trying to say, let's try to get rid of this law because it doesn't favor us. And it's kind of like, that sucks, you know what I mean? Like, when you read about how many film projects Fox had that got canceled because they got bought out.
Right.
And it's like, sucks, man. Like, did you see the test footage they were doing for the Mouse Guard film?
No.
No? I don't know. You guys know what Mouse Guard is? That comic book?
It vaguely sounds familiar to me.
I don't know it.
Yeah. So there was a book called Mouse Guard. It's like a Lord of the Rings mouse type story.
Okay.
But they were doing like an animated film for it, but then they got canceled because Disney didn't want it anymore.
Wow.
And then so the director released the footage, and it just looked amazing. Like I was like, I would freaking love this movie, but then you hear about all the films that got canceled, and it's like, damn, dude, that sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the more entities that are creating and having different voices, the better, versus just one global company that just handles everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Competition breeds creativity. You gotta think outside the box if you want to make money and get paid.
Mhm. True. Very true.
So yeah. So well, I mean, I'm ready to ask questions more geared towards you then, because I don't want to talk about multi-corporations now. Unless Roman? Yeah.
Oh no, I'm good on the Disney stuff. So if you want to get into your
I mean, I'm not saying it might not come back up, because Roman and I always circle back to these things, because it's all like they're strangling the little guy, But yeah. Well, so we'll definitely list a couple of your films, and Roman informed me that a majority of them were on Amazon, so that's actually where I saw them. Actually, let me start off with that question. So, how did that process go when you're trying to get your movies on Amazon Prime or like Netflix? Do you submit, or is there like you send an email to somebody, or you have to call a number, or how does that process work to get your works on a streaming service like Amazon or Netflix?
Okay, well, so let's say, I have 5 movies out right now that are available, right?
Yep.
Right.
And 3 of them I went with a distribution company, a couple distribution companies. And now, distribution company, I guess you can equalize it to, like, when a musician has, like, a music label or something like that. They'll take your product, your film, and they put it out to the masses, whether they're submitting it to the streaming companies, they printed the DVDs and put them out, like, in stores and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they handled all of that.
Okay.
That was for my first 3 films. The 2 films after that, The Pining and Worth, they came at a time after 2016 where Amazon kind of opened the floodgates and said, "Hey, guess what? You can upload to our site now." Kind of like YouTube, but with a little bit more restrictions,
Right.
to where you can take your film and upload straight to Amazon, so people can watch it on Amazon Video.
Oh.
And so that's what I did with those 2.
Okay.
And the reason why I decided to do that is because you get your real time statistics, your viewers, you know what I mean? You get to see, like, those graphs and all that data is like, it's priceless, especially when, like, you want to take it to, investors and try to get support for your next film or whatever, like, oh, this is how many views that we've had, and then you can use that with, what do they call it, product placement, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So The Pining had, like, 1 million views last year, let's just say.
Okay.
I can take that to, like, an energy drink company. And it's like, hey, we have reached to over 1 million people. You know, if you give us this amount of money to put in our next film, then, you know, they'll all see your product being drunk by maybe a C-list celebrity or something like that, you know? And so I ended up doing that with, my last 2 films. And then the ones that I'm working on now, I have one that worked straight with the distribution company with, because they help basically finance the film instead of me paying out of pocket.
Okay.
So, you know, stuff like that. Like, you know, I make decisions based on, you know, the different situations that I'm in. And so I kind of, you know, it's kind of here or there, but, you know, the fact that there's so many streaming companies, but then a lot of them are gatekeeping. You know, Netflix is gatekeeping. They just want series. They're only producing their own series. And then, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Disney Plus, forget about it. Apple TV, forget about it. Like, you know? So, one of them, Worth, that I ended up self-distributing. You know, it's on Amazon. It's on iTunes. Back when iTunes was the thing, I think they're ending iTunes and it's just going to be Apple TV, I believe.
Okay.
And then Comcast, one of the on-demand movies. It's a on-demand movie on Comcast. Like, there's different ways to go about these things. One of my films, On the Court, was on Hulu before Hulu, you know, became bought out by Disney.
Right.
And so that was like a big deal. And so, but now that, you know, Hulu's owned by Disney, that's also gatekeeping. You know,
Wow.
so it's kind of like,
Oh man.
it sucks because, you know, there's more companies coming out for streaming, you know, that helps, but then at the same time, the big ones, they're starting to close the doors on the little guys. And,
they just want their own properties on there.
Yeah.
you know, Amazon's still an option that has a lot of, like, you know, a lot of traffic and stuff like that, but then they recently lowered their, you know, royalty payment. It used to be like 16 cents an hour viewed. Now it's like a penny. And it's like, you can't make a living off a penny an hour, you know,
No.
this side from, like, Indonesia. Like, you know what I mean? It's child concentration camp type movies. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
absolutely.
what they make Nikes for. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
you can't live that here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
And what's funny is that of all those big evil corporations, I figure that it sounds about right. Like, Amazon would be the ones to do the most to help the little guy. But if they could do a little less, they'll definitely do a little less.
Oh, yeah. And they, just this phone call right now, they made $1 billion. And it's like, they're still like, you know what, let's lower you guys a little bit more. Like, what the hell? It's like, you guys are making money all the time. Like, it doesn't end. It's crazy. But they still don't want to do anything. There was, like, no reason for them to do that either. It's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, and you know, with the other guys like your Apple and your Disney Plus and Netflix, they should open up a section of indie films and independent creators and say, like, as a sign of goodwill, look at all these guys and look what they're creating. And it's like, people are still gonna go and watch Apple stuff and reruns of Seinfeld. They're not gonna stop doing that. But it's still a good sign of goodwill to put indie directors like yourself and others on there and just be like, by the way, check these guys out too. It doesn't hurt.
Well, the thing is Amazon did it, and they basically used, you know what I mean? Because all the independent filmmakers, you know, they brought that traffic. We're like, hey, my movie's now on this. Come watch, you know, tell everybody, you know, whether it's like, you know, the little guys, but you get 100 little guys who have 100 viewers each, then, you know, they all go and watch it. Versus, like, how many Amazon originals are you guys watching these days? Like, I haven't seen a single one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not interested in that. Like,
I haven't either.
right? But, you know what I mean? Like, they want to sell their stuff, but, you know, people, I hate to use the term real movies, but people want to watch, like, the Hollywood movies. But then, you know, if you get a bunch of indie guys who are selling straight for their audiences and then, you know, their people, and they're bringing them in, then it's like, I don't see what the problem is. You know, at least treat these guys good, because they're bringing you people, they're bringing you viewers.
Right.
They're watching your platform instead of watching Netflix or Apple TV, like, but for some reason they didn't see that. I don't know.
Yeah, and to answer your question, I watched The Boys. I think that was the last one I saw on Amazon.
Yeah, but did you watch it because it was a comic book, or did you watch it because it was an Amazon original?
Oh yeah. I watched it because
Exactly.
you're right. I watched it because it was Garth Ennis. So,
Exactly.
So that's absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if Garth Ennis said, "Hey, you know what? Amazon's paying me a penny an hour. I'm gonna go take The Boys over to Apple TV," then you would go watch it over there instead of watching it on Amazon.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
I actually have not watched anything on Amazon.
Oh man.
Like, I haven't watched any of their original stuff.
And Mr. Eduardo can probably chime in here, but for me, Garth Ennis holds a special place in my heart because he essentially resurrected Punisher.
Right.
When Marvel just didn't know what to do with Frank. He was just dead in the water. No one wanted to mess with him. And Garth Ennis is like, given to me, boom! Punisher Warzone drops, and it was explosive. Like, oh, damn. I love Warzone. Those comics, oh, man. And yeah.
But I remember, so I have Garth Ennis comic books, but then I also have the Punisher War Journal, the Romita Jr. series back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then I love the Punisher stuff when he was in Daredevil in the 80s. Like, that's like the stuff that I'm used to. So it's weird. It's like, because they're all different.
Yes.
Yes. They're all Punisher.
Yes. It's like the Punisher formula is always consistent. But yeah. Garth Ennis just kind of brought that back, and Ennis, he did Preacher, and Preacher I believe was what AMC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he also did that. He did Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe, which I believe that was Ennis's first project, which got them to eventually give him Punisher. Is because he just did that one shot, and they were like, "Okay, this is pretty good. You can just run with Punisher." And then yeah. But yeah, that's so interesting because that's I'm a business minor, I should say, and so kind of understanding the mindsets of these guys is always, I'm a shill. I understand that. I love capitalism, yay. So, but at the same time too, it's worthwhile to understand the little guys because everybody started as a little guy at some point. And so, and the dream and the goal is to become one of the big players. So understanding the process and how it works, that's always kind of interested me. And getting your voice out there, in this case, your voice is your works. That's kind of like what I'm understanding or trying to understand. So, yeah.
Definitely.
And it's like, so one of the things that I remember learning in accounting class is that goodwill can actually be considered as an asset. Like, you could put a dollar amount on goodwill. So it's like, instead of giving you a penny, if they gave you 50 cents, you could take essentially some of that money and you would be promoting it left and right. You would be putting it on social media and all that. Like, check out my stuff. It's on Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime would benefit from that additional traffic. It's like, it's all like self-serving. Like, it helps them as much as it helps you. And so, invest a little in people like yourself and everyone wins. And I don't understand why that's such a difficult concept for people to kind of understand.
You're right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, I don't know. Yeah. But regardless, your stuff's on there. That's how I saw The Pining and Worth. And about The Pining, I think you already answered this. My first question was going to be, I was getting kind of hints of The Shining and Friday the 13th. And then my question was going to be, what movies or directors kind of inspired you? And I think you've kind of touched on that.
For The Pining or just, in general?
Let's make it general. Because like I said, the other one I saw was Worth. So let's say, well, you also mentioned that too. So let's say for the horror genre, what are kind of your inspirations? And then for the fighting or the sports genre, what would you say are your inspirations?
I don't know if I have inspirations straight from like for horror films, I watched a lot of them,
Okay.
and I have more favorites than like other ones, but I think it's weird because The Pining, I feel, was less inspired by horror movies than it was just not trying to do, because we did Worth, which was like this warm, romantic, you know what I mean? A lot of reds and sunset type of film, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then, like,
Right.
but it was like a straight drama to where, you know what I mean? Like it all had to kind of be the same world. I don't know, like I'm kind of going abstract here, but The Pining, it was like, all right, I want to do, you know what I mean? I want to do something like, let's shoot the police station. Let's try to go like NYPD Blue or, NCI, something like that. Let's do some Law and Order stuff. Let's shoot it like that. And then let's shoot like some of these scenes, like the zombie scenes. Like let's go for, you know what I mean? Like a 28 weeks later type look, or do you know what I mean? Like we went for all these different types of looks and different types of characters, and it just allowed us to play in our own sets of rules versus, where if you're like in the real world, you got to play by the real world rules. But when you're dealing with something like The Pining, where there's like supernatural elements going on and things like that, you can do whatever the hell you want. I truly believe that. I truly believe, like, you can, if I wanted to have a character go fly from one city to the other, I can absolutely.
Totally.
But so that's kind of where that stemmed out of. And I don't know, Worths kind of came out of more of like real life experiences, and then what is the type of films that we watched to kind of get the same look were like old romance films, like what's the one, I can't even think, we watched Forrest Gump, we watched like Woody Allen films, like, you know what I mean, like we went through a few different types of things so we could kind of emulate that type of feeling. So I don't know. It's weird. It's very. It's weird how they juxtapose each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of touched on it here, and I'm gonna jump to this question and about the Worth. You just mentioned it. I was saying there were some recurring themes that I saw in Worth, Rocky, and Creed, such as like the warrior spirit, honor, and family. And so my question was, what makes those themes so appealing to talk about, in your opinion?
I think because it's something that everybody kind of has to go through. Everybody thinks about and everything like that, and it's just it's universal, and it's a universal type subject that everybody understands, but not everybody knows how to express it, or you know what I mean, be a part of it, or even do it happily. Like, it's very difficult. Like, it's tough to have a good family life or a good relationship life, or things like that, or even good career life, and you're trying to deal with all these three things at the one time. And almost, everybody in the universe is trying to do those same things, and yet we all have trouble doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what appeals to us when we're watching something like that.
Totally. And you saw it too. It's like he's feeling his health, his age, but he's also making the name for himself, and he's getting his love life. Actually, I'll tie that into my next question about the natural feeling. In particular, I felt that the character Danielle was very well written. I felt like her dialogue was natural. So my question is, was the script written specifically with her lines, or was the actress able to kind of free play it? Like she just kind of rolled with it and said what was on her mind?
You know what? She was very on book, so where she just took her line and then made it a part of her character. So a lot of her stuff was in script. I feel like more stuff with the main character Ricky and his friends were more free play.
Okay. Yeah, that was also in there too. I got that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, that's. I feel like, you know, just because we're trying to. She's very theater based, and you know what I mean. And those guys are just on their lines, and
yeah,
right.
On a personal note, my personality is like that. I'm schmarmy and sarcastic, and most of the best things I say I wasn't thinking of. I just kind of mutter them out loud. And so that's kind of, I felt with a lot of characters. It was like some of the catchier things or the lines were kind of like muttered, or it was just like, there was a line that was spoken that seemed like it was a line from the script, but then they followed it up with a schmarmy comment, and I was like, that probably wasn't in the script. They probably thought of that on the spot and said it, and it just was like, that's beautiful. And so it felt it less scripted and more natural.
Right. But you'd be surprised. Most of the smart ass responses were scripted.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you know, for some reason that's kind of my personality. But honestly, I swear on this, anytime a character swears in my movies, like drops any type of F-bomb or S-bomb or whatever, that's all the actors. Like I don't know why I can't write profanity. Like I just don't write it. But anytime a character says it, that's on them. Like they instantly feel like my character should be saying it like this. You know, they shouldn't be saying by golly. Like they should be saying that. You know what I mean? Like yeah. So that is all them for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I was like some of the scenes like the porch barbecue scene. I really loved that one. So like, yeah, man, your cousin, he was a fighter. It's like, look at him, and he does yeah. That was really good. And then actually in that same scene too, where Ricky was all like, "Okay, I'm gonna take her now." And she's like, I'm being taken away." It's like I said, that felt like something that I would have seen when I'm hanging out with my guys, my friends and whatnot. You know, it just was. Yeah. It seemed like something said after the fact, but it's natural, and I really was like impressed and saying that this is really good. This sells it. And
yeah, especially because it's funny because that scene, the barbecue scene. So the dad character, played by Willie Barcena. Willie Barcena is like a world famous comedian, right? Wow, he was on like the Tonight Show and everything like that, and we got him, you know, for the film, and it was great, fantastic. And he was down for it, you know what I mean? He kind of knew where he wanted to go, because it was weird, because like a lot of the scenes that I have him in, he's very dramatic and stuff like that. And he's like, "You don't want me to do anything funny?" And I'm like, "Well, we got this scene here. Let's do some funny." And you know, we were getting ready for the scene and everything like that. And my friend Freddie, who was on set, you know, he's one of like the camera assistants and stuff like that.
Okay.
He's just naturally a funny guy. He's just sitting down on the porch. Next thing I know, he doesn't have his shirt on. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we'll just use him." Like, next thing I know, we have another character in the film. He wasn't a character, but he was just there.
Yeah.
We decided to use him, and it worked out. You know, I love Cousin Gucci now.
Yeah. That whole scene had me dying.
Right.
And so, and let me ask you this then. So when you're doing that, so you have a world-class comedian, and he's just going in. How hard is it for you not to break kayfabe and laugh?
Oh, that's why I had to leave the scene. Like, the dude straight out said, it was my great granduncle who was an Aztec warrior. He used to get in these fights, and I had to leave. Like, how do you stay with that? Like, come on. People used to fight in these fights, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my entire life."
Yeah, and for comedians of that caliber, they just can't turn it off. It's just natural for them, and to not laugh, it's like, man, how can you expect me not to?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go check out his stuff though. He was hilarious.
Yeah. Willie Barcena, he has a bunch of stuff. He has a few like Showtime specials, Comedy Central specials. I think he has one on Netflix too.
Okay.
Yeah, check out his stuff. He's funny.
Write that down. That's fantastic. Oh, and then that's also funny too because I remember his I guess the monologue scene that he had too about when he's talking about the strength to move forward in the living room scene.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say that's kind of the opposite is when you are the comedian and the funny guy, and then you're like, all right, now stop being funny, be serious. That had to have been a change of pace for the actor, for Mr. Barcena at that time.
Yeah, I think, but I think you know what? I think he enjoyed it because it's something different, and you know what I mean. You get to challenge yourself and stuff like that, and I think he definitely had fun doing both. You know, doing both scenes and just discovering your own range, basically.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
I remember that day. We had a fun day on that set. It was good. I wish we could have had more. You know, I think we were just. It was a few years ago, and we were still trying to. It was definitely early in the shoot. I think it was like day 3 or 4 or whatever, and then, you know what I mean. Like it just took us longer versus how we are now. 4 years later, you know what I mean. We probably could get like 5 or 6 scenes for sure instead of just like 3.
Were there any scenes with that character in it that were not used in the end film?
I feel like there should have been like 1 or 2 or something like that. Like I feel like there was more stuff with Ricky even before he met Danielle, like just as like, you know, a single guy coming home from work, you know, things like that just didn't make it in because it's really tough, especially with night shoots. Like when you have to light for night, you know, it takes a couple hours and things like that, and it's just tough, and it doesn't always make it, you know.
Right. Yeah. Understood. So I had a question, and at first I split this up between the Pining and Worth, but I guess I'll just ask this because it can kind of touch on both ends. So when I was looking at the Pining, I noticed that you shot at a bunch of different locations. So it was like kind of like you had the makeshift studio, you had like a house, you had a police station. Were those actual locations? Like, was that an actual police station? And did you when you were making the characters, like you referenced you were doing like Law and Order and NYPD Blue, did you actually consult police officers to kind of, you know, do that extra research and kind of be like, well, when we're investigating, we look like this and we ask this and we do all that? And then my follow-up question was in the Worth, I saw a sign saying "Welcome to Union City." Are we Bay Area boys going on here?
Let's see, the Pining questions. We shot at a warehouse for the makeshift studio.
Okay.
And we shot at Chabot College for all the church stuff, all the group therapy stuff.
Okay. Wow.
And the police station was its actual film set out in Southern California.
Okay. And
that set is also the same set as the hospital one from Worth.
Okay.
They just have a few different setups. And when we shot the hospital one, you know, for Worth, you know, my brother and everything like that, we were all messing around in the police station set, and we're just like, we gotta shoot something here one day, and then we ended up doing that like the very next year. So it you know, one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like we want to have fun, you know, things like that. But yeah, so that's kind of how that happened. I did not consult. I do not. Towards the end, when like they're doing the walkie-talkie scene, the cops and stuff like that, we had a former police officer who's on set, you know, helping the actors out and stuff like that. But a lot of times, I kind of just don't want to do the consultation stuff, especially after, you know, going so deep when I did Last Wolf of Ezo, like the Western stuff, trying to make it like, oh, it has to be accurate and things like that. And then I kind of discovered that, yeah, like, they're movies. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Good answer. Good answer.
That's kind of how I treat things now. Like, just do whatever you want. You know what I mean? I mean, if you feel like you have to make it accurate, then that's your own thing. But if you're happy doing it this way, like the only difference, when I did Worth, you know, a lot of it was based on true events and things like that because, you know, I work at a Muay Thai gym and I have a lot of fighter friends and things like that. So I took a lot of their stories and, you know, that's just how I told the story. And I casted people and I wanted them to look like real people, you know what I mean? Versus, I mean, you guys watch movies and you're like, this person is such an LA person. Like, no real people look like this.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
That's-
absolutely.
I did not want LA people for my movie.
Yeah.
But then I did the Pining, and I was like, you know, these characters have to be like models and things like that. I'm like, I want beautiful people to play this model. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want,
Yeah.
you know, beautiful people for my models. I want some good looking, you know what I mean? Like, why the hell not? Like, you know, so we did that. We casted beautiful models to play beautiful models, and like, you know what I mean? LA people to play these kind of people. But at the same time, I'd rather have like, yeah, I'd rather tell the story the way I want to tell the story, but then use people who you can appreciate instead of just fake Hollywood Instagram looking people.
Fair.
I don't know.
Right.
Fair enough.
Like you wanted people that you could see in the movie, like, this looks like somebody I might actually run into at a place like this.
Exactly.
Some of that was,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel it.
And actually, I believe the gym that you shot at in Worth is the one in Fremont, right?
Correct.
I thought so. I was like, man, that looks so familiar. And then the cafe too. I was like, why does that cafe look so familiar?
Yeah, I actually,
Yeah.
the place I work is near that gym. It's like, you know where the Walmart is over there?
Yeah, it's over in on Newark, like right off the highway exit.
Yeah, if you turn down that street to go towards the Walmart, you just keep driving straight, and you might, where I work is right down there.
We just outed the three of us to everybody listening to this podcast that we're all Bay Area guys. Fantastic. Fair enough. Hey man, this is a great area. So I have a follow-up question, and I think you kind of touched on this. So, during Ricky's big fight, when you were coming down the aisle and you slipped getting into the ring, was that acting or did that happen? I gotta answer the mystery.
That happened to my friend Jose Palacios, who plays one of the characters in there. He plays Rudy,
Okay.
and he's a professional fighter. And that happened to him at Bellator, San Jose,
Oh,
where he tried to jump into the ring and he slipped, and it got like 100,000 views on YouTube.
Oh
or something like
no!
that.
Oh no! Oh man!
And so when I wrote the script, I put that scene in there, and he was like, "Damn!" You know? So when we were shooting it, it was funny because they were setting up to shoot it a different angle. Like they wanted to be like more dramatic and stuff like that. And I was like, no, it's got to be this way. It's got to look just like this. He's got to, it's got to look dramatic. And then he falls out of the frame, and then and it worked. It broke the entire audience because nobody was expecting it. No one in the audience. Well, one person was expecting it. He knew it was coming. But yeah, everybody else, you don't see that happening. And if you saw that happen in any fight movie, you guys let me know, and I'll do them right now.
Oh,
But
yeah, you got
it
it.
doesn't happen, and
No.
so I wanted it to happen in ours, and I'm glad I did it. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like you don't see like McGregor doing that on his way to UFC. You know, maybe he should. Maybe it'll make people like him more.
It's funny because, like, every single fight movie, they're walking into the ring or the cage, and it's dramatic and slow and light and people cheering at me like that, and I'm like, all right, so I kind of want to emulate that feeling where it looks dramatic and you're excited about the fight, and then I just broke it with the slipping and the falling. It's like the one moment that I'm very happy the audiences kind of react the same way to, where they just laugh. I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Sometimes the joke doesn't land, but that's one that has landed for sure. So I'm happy.
Yeah. And what's funny is the joke landed and it was a fall.
Yeah.
So if that ain't the funniest thing. Now you have me thinking of like Rocky IV when Apollo Creed's coming out and James Brown is singing and dancing, and then Apollo Creed just kind of slips and falls. That's what was missing in Rocky IV.
Every single movie, it would change. It would change everything about every movie if they just showed them falling.
Wow.
Oh man. Oh, that was great. So, oh man. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess my next question too, and we kind of talked about this off the podcast, but so we saw Tom Sizemore, and then we saw the Tony Todd. And so obviously those guys, they have their pedigrees in Hollywood. We've seen them in, like I said, Tony Todd, The Rock, Candyman. We've seen Tom Sizemore. I remember Heat, De Niro, Pacino, Kilmer, and then obviously Saving Private Ryan, and that was a Steven Spielberg movie. So my question was, what was it like working with them? And did they offer any advice, or were they kind of just like, sure, let's do it? Or what was that? What was it like working with them?
So Tom Sizemore I worked with before on my second film, Hunting Season. And so I already knew him and everything like that. I reached out to him, asked him if he wanted me to be part of the pining, and he agreed and came out and flew in. And he's like, it's different because the pining I just directed, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it kind of just worked with him. He was just an actor and I was a director. And he got into costume, we got him ready and everything like that. And he kind of did his scenes, and it's funny because you see him working with the other actors, getting along, taking selfies and stuff like that. And sometimes, when you're working with actors, sometimes they make decisions or, choices that aren't good. And I remember one actor, he was like, he played like his character in a certain way, like the first take. I told him, like, you know what, you don't need to do that or anything like that. And then, like, later on, he's all, hey, if you would have let him keep doing that, I don't think, I probably would have been like, oh man, what am I doing? What am I in? Like, this is going to be terrible. But the fact that you caught it and you stopped it, like, that rest assured, I feel so much more comfortable with you as a director and everything like that. It's such a good decision, and I was like, oh, thank God. But yeah, so he's very in that way where if there's something that he kind of wants to criticize or whatever, where there's something else, he'll just talk to me about it, like, behind closed doors, instead of saying, like, oh, hey, you're not doing well, or anything like that. It's kind of like, oh, this person's doing good, but this person, I'm not getting it. And it's like, okay, I see what you're saying. Let me go, what I mean? Like, let's work on this a bit. Let's rehearse it, or something like that.
Sure.
And, yeah, but, he's cool. He's just, he would pizza for dinner, he was just chilling, and then shooting. He gave us all day, you know what I mean?
Nice.
Not like, oh, I'm only here for, on set for 8 hours, so I'm only paid for 8 hours, whatever. He gave me from morning to night. We got all the scenes, cool, and then taking pictures with everybody, and that was cool. Nice. Tony Todd was like, that's like my dude, right? He's so friendly and stuff like that. But I got to work with him like one-on-one as an actor, so we took some time to go through the script, and, we rehearsed, we tried different ways and things like that. And he was really cool because, what I mean? Like, he would eat lunch with everybody. He was talking about jazz music with, like, my mom or whatever, talking about different foods, or, he has rescue cat, like, chilling, like, and talking all these things. And, I ended up talking. I saw him again like last year when I went to the HorrorCon in Atlanta. We hung out and things like that. And then again in Chicago, I went for my birthday, and he was there for a convention. And then we ended up going to a blues club for my birthday and hanging out and having drinks. And it was
nice.
really cool. And
Wow.
I'm hoping to hang out. You know what I mean? I'm hoping to get him on set down here again this year, hopefully, for my next film.
Man,
That'd be cool.
That's crazy. if I mean, who could say that? Who could just be like, yeah, I celebrated my birthday with Candyman. It was great.
Yeah,
we had drinks.
Yeah, and he's really supportive because we're at a horror convention, and then he'll introduce me to people. He introduced me to Virginia Madsen, who was also in Candyman and stuff like that. And, she's an Oscar-nominated actress, and I'm watching to meet a friend of mine. He's a young director that I work with. Things like that. He was introducing me to people, and he's like, hey, things like that. And he's just been so supportive, doing interviews, promoting the movie on Twitter and stuff like that.
Awesome,
man.
Cool.
Yeah, I did see he did a lot of interviews for Worth. Like,
Yeah.
that was. I'm not used to seeing like people talk about projects from people I know.
No.
So it's like, oh wow.
Yeah, I was like, is my name in Forbes magazine? That's crazy. It was surreal. It was surreal, but it got us, like, he was very supportive, and just that interview, that article alone, like, oh my gosh, we like tripled the viewers for that month.
Wow.
Well, when you got a guy like Tony Todd,
Yeah.
like, hey, you should check out this movie. People are gonna go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was excited.
And oh man, what was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought. Are they they're remaking Candyman, right? Wasn't Jordan Peele, I think, wasn't he trying to remake it, or?
I think I heard they were gonna.
Yeah, it comes out June.
Oh, it's already out.
Coming out.
Roman and I on the same page.
Yeah,
We're like, what?
Coming out in June. They released a poster, but they haven't really released anything else from it. And it's one of those, ride or die things. I'm like, if he's in it, I'm there opening day. If he's not, I'm boycotting.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's
They haven't even mentioned. They haven't even mentioned who's going to be Candyman.
No, they haven't really anything about it. I'm just kind of like, he's gotta be. I'm like, after the success of the last Halloween movie, why wouldn't you want the original people back? Like, come on now.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And I guess Tony's not letting any secrets out, huh?
Nope.
Fair enough. Fair. So and without giving too much away, we can keep it vague, but would we be most likely seeing him in any of your upcoming projects?
I'm really, really hoping so. Because I know
Okay.
I've talked to him.
Okay.
We've always like, oh yeah, we're gonna work together soon and stuff like that. But of course, you know what I mean. He has this, and it's just kind of so I'm doing. It's weird because he's such an icon for Candyman and Final Destination and stuff like that. He's like a horror icon.
Right.
But the two horror movies that I've done recently, I wasn't interested in. I'm like, I kind of want to go. I want him for something different, like Word or something. I don't want to use the horror everybody used before. I want to use something different. He's a great versatile actor. And so then the film I'm doing after this latest horror film's finished, I'm going to do a baseball film.
Okay.
And I really do want to try to connect with him and try to get him to play a manager. And I think he'd be perfect for it. I know he's a big baseball fan. And everything. I just, I'm getting ready for it now. I had some custom jerseys made. I'm picking up some different props and things like that. And I'll probably do a Kickstarter so we can get Tony Todd. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's get him. And then there's a couple other guys I met that I want to get down. Did you guys ever watch Smallville?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't.
Yeah. So.
But I know Smallville.
No.
I haven't watched it, but I know Smallville.
I really would love to get Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, if that's possible. But I became buds with those guys last year. And so I know Tony Todd was on that show for an episode, and you know what I mean. So anyway, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna freaking go for the kick for the sky. Like, you know, why the hell not? Let's try to. I mean, I'll be realistic about it. Like, I'm sure it'll be, you know what I mean? Like, we'll have to raise a good amount for Kickstarter, but
Right.
yeah, why not? You know what I mean? What's the worst we can do is not hit a mark and then just do a film that's already on the level that we've been doing. So if we can do something bigger, then let's go for it.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was an interesting take because, like you said, you didn't want to kind of typecast him as a horror icon or just be like, I'm going to milk him because he's horror. It's like, no, you kind of presented him as, you know, kind of spoilers, but he played a detective, but he was stern, but he was almost like fatherly and sagely, and he was, you know, like you portrayed him in the movie, just, you know, a guy to hang out with. But when he had to come and actually be a detective, he was stern, he was serious, and he was someone like, if he was conducting a murder investigation, he'd probably know the questions to ask and get the answers he needs because he's experienced.
Right.
And so with what you just said for his hopefully upcoming role, I can see that completely as a manager and someone that's in charge and a leader and would inspire others because he has that size, he has that voice, he has that look. So it's like he seems like a good leader type character. Yeah.
Right. I agree.
So that's yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. It was like I said, on a personal note, when I'm watching these and then all of a sudden I just recognized an actor from another movie and I was just like, oh wow. So it was kind of like wow. And so again, I'm also a person that has a reverence for my seniors and for those that, you know, I always defer to the experts, so to say. So when I see someone who was been in Hollywood, I'm just kind of like, oh, what did they say about their time or their experience? Did they offer any nuggets of knowledge, basically? And that's kind of where my questions came from.
Yeah, you know, and it's cool because, like, you know, we work with these guys and they've worked with, you know, the best, you know what I mean? Like, Tom Sizemore has worked with Michael Mann, Spielberg, Ridley Scott, Tony Scott, like all these people, and they're like, shit, Donnie's working with me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am now on this list, and, you know, Tony Todd has worked with, like, a whole bunch of people, you know what I mean? He was in The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, and it was freaking directed by Michael Bay, and I'm like, and here I am, you know, we're talking about making movies and stuff like that. I'm just like, how am I acting with a guy who's acted with Sean Connery? Like,
right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, how do I take this? You know? And not only that, but like you know, like we're gonna do. You know, how do we do it again? Like, how do we keep going and things like that? And yeah, and it's fun because you do learn a lot. So there's a film that I produced. It was called Look Into the Fire. I believe it's coming out this year.
Okay.
And Roman, did you ever meet Tim Morrill or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, he went to the same school as us, right? He directed this. He wrote and directed this film. I produced it for him. Okay. And we got an actor for it. His name is Greg Henry. I don't know if you guys recognize the name Greg Henry.
No.
Okay, so he's one of James Gunn's actors. He's the grandpa from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in Slither. He was like the mayor. Like he's one of James Gunn.
Oh, okay. So he's one of those actors where it's like, I don't know the name, but if I saw him, I'm like, I know that guy.
If you saw him, you would recognize him.
Yeah.
Like, he always plays like a villain character too. He was in the Villain, Black Lightning, and stuff like that, and Scandal. And but yeah, he's a good veteran actor, and we had him down. And I remember him, you know, acting with a lot of these Bay Area actors. I call them Bay Area actors, but you know, it was their kind of their first forte. You know what I mean? Because I had Sizemore and Tony Todd, but now we have Greg Henry, and he's working with these guys, and they were like, you can see, you know, just talking with the actors, the local actors, they were just like, wow, you know, just the intensity and, you know, things like that, you know, they were it was like such a learning experience to where you can kind of see, like, you know what I mean? Like, after years of working in this business and how just on the ball that they are on. And when you're new, when, 5-10 years versus 30-40 years,
Yeah.
like, it does open your eyes, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, these guys are on it. Like, this is great, like, it does show you what you can do and, like, how to get better and things like that. Definitely. So another person, sorry, I'm just going to go into another story.
Yeah,
I remember for hunting season, we had Eric Roberts, who's also another veteran. I don't know if you guys know Eric Roberts.
He sounds familiar.
He's from Best of the Best.
Okay, yeah.
He was also in the first Expendables.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My grandfather
Eric
always
Roberts,
made fun of him
he's
because
an
he always cried.
Oscar-nominated actor, Academy Award-nominated actor in the 80s and stuff like that. And
Right.
again, yeah, he was in Expendables, but he was in The Dark Knight. And, it was funny because, we're shooting, he's on set waiting for us and stuff like that. He's all, we're like, we'll be ready in just a couple minutes. He's all, hey, no problem. He's all, Christopher Nolan said the same thing. He's like, oh, don't worry, we're going to get these blasted lights working. It happens on every set. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is such a, like, relief that even at that level, they're still kind of like they're still in the same situations, like, oh, don't worry, we'll get the lighting right, stuff like that, don't worry, basically, you compared us to Christopher Nolan on The Dark Knight set, and I was like, that is so cool. Like,
wow. Yeah, man.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you noticed this or if you saw this before, but like Amazon has, when you're watching it on Prime Video, it has that ability to kind of like give biographies of the actors that are currently in the scene. And it actually did do that for both The Pining and Worth.
Do they?
Yeah, like it had your info and it had the other actors' info. It was like really rad. And I don't know how Amazon does it or if it's like connected to Google or IMDb. But yeah, you can get on-screen details of like the actors that are currently in the scene.
Nice.
I
didn't know. I knew they did that for like big movies. I didn't know that they did it for those big movies.
Yeah. In the Worth, the guy that was the gym owner, was Tony? What's his name? In the Worth,
the gym owner, Johnny Gilligan.
Yes, they came up and they were like, he's like an Irish actor, I believe they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave his information. He had a bio on there.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Nice.
it's funny because I remember like the first thing he did, it was like a shark topless versus like mega octopus, something like that, right?
Another
Yeah.
sci-fi
And he had
movie.
like one scene in it, and it's so funny because he's such a great actor. Like he's so intense, you know what I mean? And like just thinking, I was like, oh wow, he's in one of those. But I'm like, he should be in so much. Like, it's just, I think it's just the Bay Area versus LA or something like that. But I feel like I really I want to make him the lead for the baseball film that I'm planning on doing, and I think you know what I mean. I think audiences are going to react to him, just seeing how intense he is, just how great he is,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, it was a little interesting tidbit, and I thought that that was kind of like important in establishing in people and all that, because you're watching and you're like, who is this guy? And it's like, oh wow, he actually has quite a resume to him. This is pretty good. Going back to what we said earlier about the little guys and all that, and it's like, well, when you're reading some of these bios, they're not so little after all. You might not recognize them, but they're powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and it's good. Like I really like on The Pining. The main actress Jackie Dallas, who plays the detective.
Yeah.
Right.
Like she's out in LA and she's hustling and getting like these roles in like these different TV shows and stuff like that.
Nice.
And like, you know what I mean? When she first started, you know what I mean? Like, she was doing little projects like mine and stuff like that. And I remember, she's saying like, oh yeah, when we did hunting season, that was like my first big project. I'm like, you consider my project a big project? But, she went from that to Stranger Things, and now she's like, Criminal Minds, well, Bold and the Beautiful. Like, she's getting her resume filled out, and I'm like, you know what I mean? It's good to see because, again, you want your people to be successful. You know, you want audiences to start recognizing all your people just because, you know, just for the moments that you had. Like, hey, I know this person. That's really cool. Like, you know, that this is how you grow because, you know, you grow that, you grow your fan, you know, and then you can get support to keep creating more movies.
Absolutely. Yep. So those were kind of my questions for the Pining and the Worth, and something just dawned on me, and let me see if I can get your input on this. Did you ever watch like Super Troopers or any of the Broken Lizards guys? Yeah,
I think I watched all their movies.
How do you feel about that? They're an acting troupe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about that? Would you ever consider making like a group of you and your guys, and you guys, you know, just work with each other and kind of alternate the roles, but you share the directing, producing, and whatnot? Would that be ever something you would think about doing?
Well, I mean, it's weird because at this stage, I mean, because them, I don't know, I think they were all kind of like comedians, right? Like acting comedians and stuff like that. And they worked at a group.
Yeah.
But I'm not really, I wouldn't consider myself like a comedian or, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, kind of an actor in that way to where, you know what I mean? Like you can go and you do that and you make an ensemble and you just keep doing ensemble picks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With me, I kind of write and direct because I don't know what else to do at this stage. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I had people sending me like really good scripts and stuff like that. Like I would consider making those. But again, like if I had, like Tim, you know, he directed his film and wrote his film, but like he went out and got resources and, you know, he asked me for, you know, just to help and things like that. I help how I can. But the independent stage, I think what scares a lot of people off versus, you know, everyone doing their own projects and stuff like that is because it can get expensive and it takes a lot of time. And some people can kind of get scared off of that. Now, the friends that I do have that don't get scared and want to go out and make their own feature films, like there's a director, his name is Michael Fredinelli, Wild Dogs Productions. They do all their stuff out here in the Bay Area. And I go to their premieres. Sometimes I play a little part, you know, an extra or something like that in their films, and like I support, and you know what I mean. Like, I support that. You know, there's other people, other filmmakers out in Oakland that I support. I have their DVDs, and you know what I mean. Things like that. I have a friend in LA. His name is Juan Castro. He's been in it for 20, 30 years, and I have his DVDs, and like, you know what I mean, like. I actively try to support other independent filmmakers. Now, as far as helping them with their projects, like kind of what you're saying, again, like if it was more frequent in the Bay Area, I guess, you know, LA, they're shooting every day, but here, you know, it's few and far between. It's really hard, especially in the economic climate that we live in here. You know what I mean? Like you can't, you know, you got. I don't know a lot of people with not 2 jobs in the Bay Area. You know, it's like you got 2 or 3 jobs, you have 8 roommates, you do all these things just to live here. Now you like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go spend 10, 20 grand to make a film. Jeez, like, you know, it's scary. It's very frightening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot. And I just in the process of talking about this too, it's also I did see that a couple of actors were in both movies. I had noticed, or I recognized in The Pining and The Worth, and so the flip of the acting troupe like Broken Lizard is: would you ever consider doing kind of like what Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller, Jack Black, and was it Luke Owen? I think how they came out of the same acting school. And you'll see them in each other's movies. You know, you'll see them in Anchorman, or you'll see them in Old School, and etc. Would you ever consider doing that too, like having a revolving group that you would kind of pick and choose from?
I mean, I kind of already, because the Bay Area is such a small community, especially with actors and stuff like that, you kind of use the same actors over and over again, you know, especially because, you know, you've seen those two movies, but if you watch the other ones, like, you'll see it even more. You'll be like, oh, okay, I recognize it. Because, like, even, you know, Mike Grayson plays one of the best friends in Worth, and then I have him just play, you know, I had him a day for the Piney to come in and play one of the ambulance drivers.
Okay.
And that was fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's because he was the main character On the Court, and then he had such a big supporting role in Worth that I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to do the Pining, but, you know, I'm going to just bring him for a day, you know what I mean? Like, he's got kids and wife. I'm like, I'm not trying to take him from his family another whole summer or year or whatever like I did for these two films, but, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, let's go shoot for a night, you know, have this role, and, you know, he loved it, and so we shot the paramedic role, and that, I remember showing that in the theater. We had a screening, and people just loved it, especially, you know what I mean, because you guys remember that scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the paramedic, and he's like, you know, he sees the abandoned car, he's like, all right, I'm going to go check it out. And, like, everybody knew what was going to happen. Everybody, you know, you hear the whole theater going, oh, my gosh. It was fantastic. It was such a great feeling. And then, you know, he knew how he was playing the character, and it was just fantastic. And so there's actors like that where, you know, I'll write something, and I do want to use new people. You know, I want to meet new people and see how it is working with different people. And so it's a weird mix where it's like, okay, I'm writing this, I'm probably going to use new people, but then I know, you know, I can have this person for this role or this person for that role, or, you know, or let's say I cast a new person and then they're unreliable. I'll call one of my people up and they're like, yeah, man, I'll come down, no problem, you know, and they'll come in and do the role easy. And so it's yeah, you kind of just, you make friends and you keep working together, and but the thing is, it's tough because, you know, again, films are hard, and I shoot maybe like one a year, if that, and you know what I mean, like, it's, you can only have so many roles with so many actors, and it's kind of like, hey man, like, maybe next project or the next one after that or something like that, you know, like, I can't, you know, you don't want to keep using the same people every single time, because you want to meet other actors. You kind of want to grow your thing too. You know what I mean? Because when you get used to each other and things like that, it's a great thing. But then you want to bring other people in it to grow. Because again, it's you know, it's an artistic thing, but it's also a marketing thing. Where, like, if this person sells, you know, 10 copies of the same film to the same 10 people, and then you just do it every single film, but then you get 2 new people in, then they sell it to their audience, and you know what I mean? Like, you know, you bring in people, they sell it to theirs, you know, you build a community of people who become supporters of your work, and that's something to also think about when you do casting and when you're building a project. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
So speaking of actors, are there any actors for any of your current movies that you thinking of maybe getting that have not been in any films that you've done? Like anybody kind of big? Or
in the Bay?
Just in general. Like any actors you'd like to work with?
Let me think. I mean, I'm trying to think, because I know there's a lot of actors in the Bay Area, but I feel like I've worked with a lot of them already, you know. But then, like, you also kind of want to. It's kind of the same thing with the more famous ones too. Like, I worked with Tom Sizemore twice,
right?
But for like the next one, like, yeah, maybe I want to work with somebody, you know, maybe I want to work with Michael Madsen or something, you know what I mean? Like, kind of on that level, you know what I mean? Like, and, you know, things like that. Like, I kind of want to work with different, you know what I mean? If I can get Danny Trejo for a project, I would want to bring him in. Like,
that'd be awesome.
You know, like, people who, you know, that I can aim for and try to get versus, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure there's, like, A-listers, you know, sure, everybody wants to work with the A-listers, but
right.
At this level, like, what can I afford? What's doable? What's Kickstarter doable? You know what I mean? Like, what can we raise up to get somebody who would come in and do our film for us?
Right.
But
I would like to believe that Trejo would just do it for gratuity.
right.
Like he plays all these hard dudes, but in reality, he's just a giant softie.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would love to work with him. You know what I mean? Especially because he was in Desperado Once Upon a Time. We can jump at the chance, but
yeah.
Again, it's kind of like you got to find the right project and the right timing, and then you got to have that hookup too.
Absolutely. Well, I think that to find Danny Trejo, just go to his restaurant. Just be like, that was a great taco. Right. By the way, this is my business card.
If you want to feature your tacos.
For real? Oh, man. Dude, there you go. That's your project. A story about a taqueria and Danny Trejo. And then the drama and events that go on in the taqueria. And Danny and Trejo is the wise... what's the word? Tacasia? Or damn, I don't remember. Damn it. The tortilla maker. The wizened one.
Right.
And, he says something like, life is like a tamale. You never know what you unwrap. It could be pork or it could be rajas, mijo.
There's a film that I want to do. It's not a taco film. But it's a martial arts film, right?
Yeah.
Because, I did Worth, but I feel like I can do more martial arts than we did in that movie for sure. Okay. And I know a bunch of martial artists and stuff like that, but I wanted to do Latino martial arts film, which you don't see it a lot. You don't see it.
Right.
But there's all kinds of Latino martial artists here in the Bay Area for sure. And I had this story and script, and I was like, oh, man, I would love to have Danny Trejo play the old Grandmaster.
Oh, my God.
That'd be cool.
Like, wouldn't you guys like to see something like that? Like, that would be dope, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I would definitely watch that.
Yeah.
I'd watch the theater premiere.
Definitely. Like, I would just love to shoot that. Like, and you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, like, a lot of the things are lining up. I remember, so one of the actor I work with, he does like Trump parody videos. He does a lot of them. Here, big on YouTube or stuff like that. You know what I mean? People love that stuff. And I was like, what if I have him deliver an address to the American people, and then they outlaw martial arts for Mexicans, and then that's like the story. You know what I mean?
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Go for Mexicans to do martial arts, and then I was like, oh my gosh, that would be great to do. And then I texted my friend Ben, who's my cinematographer. He's all, write that shit. We gotta film that now.
Oh my! It would be like underground MMA, underground Mexican martial artists, dude.
Well, like not even that, but it's kind of like you know what I mean? Like he goes on national news to deliver address to outlaw martial arts just specifically for Mexicans, and then all the cops are trying to stop it and stuff like that. And then of course you have the rebellion, and it's just like this would be so much fun to do.
That. Let me just fire that question off. Then, would you ever consider doing the comedy genre, or have you done the comedy movie already?
On the Court was a basketball comedy.
Okay.
That I did. Yeah. And so.
And I know you said
one I want to do is also going to be a comedy, but then something like that I think would be fun, because all the films kind of have a comedy, and you got to have drama, all emotion, all these things.
Right.
But to do something that's ridiculous like that, I think I could excel at it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, because I saw this movie. There's a bar that I go to on Mission in San Francisco, and every second Monday they do cyberpunk movie night. And so last month's movie was that like futuristic post-apocalyptic DDR movie.
Oh, I know which movie you're talking about.
Yeah, it where it's like everything is determined by games of DDR, Dance Dance Revolution. And that was shot out here in California. I think it was closer to the east side, like up in the mountains and whatnot, in the valley.
Like something park.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm just kind of thinking it's like and that movie was hilarious, and so that's why I'm thinking in the realm of the indie creators. It's like, because like you said, you've got the freedom to do whatever you want, and it's a movie. You could be as ridiculous as you want. So,
the FP,
thank you. Yeah. So it's like that would be wonderful, you know, and on the backdrop of, especially given that it's an election season too, it's like on the backdrop of 2020, you know.
Yeah, no, I would have to shoot it this year, wouldn't I?
Dude, yeah, it would be like, you know, in the aftermath or in the shadow of World War III, Trump outlaws Mexican martial artists. You know?
Right.
There's two threats to America's freedom: Mexicans doing martial arts and Iran.
Yeah, and like, you know, you get different people in there and stuff like that. Like, you know, Danny Trejo is the Grandmaster, and then, like, you know Noel G, that actor Noel, Guglielmi. He plays the Cholo in every single character, in like every single movie, like Training Day and Fast and Furious.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, like I would love to cast him as like the mayor of East LA, like you know, like not the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of East LA. Like, you know, like you can do all these little things that are like ridiculous but fun, like.
Oh,
since you brought him up, have you ever reached out to him?
I've met him before.
Oh, you have? Wow.
Yeah, he's a friend of a friend, and so he invited me on set, and I met him and stuff like that. And I tried to get him from Worth, but it just didn't work out. And then hopefully we get him for another project. Other than that, you know what I mean? It was just when he's in my friend's project, I just pick up those projects, no problem.
So, can you? What was his name one more time? Can you say? Because I don't want to disrespect him.
No, you can just Noel G.
Noel G.
Search up stuff, and then yeah.
So two things. One is a comment, and the other one's a question. Noel G. There was a meme on Facebook that said if you go look at his IMDb, he has like the same name. I forgot what it was. It was like his name was always Beto. Hector, thank you. Yeah, in all his roles, he's always Hector. Was that intentional? Did he always say like, "Hey, just call me Hector," or was that just the way it played out?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But I feel like that's just kind of how Hollywood be. Like, Mexicans and Cholos. Oh, they just call him Hector.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. And so my question is, since you've met Noel G, does he have like formal like training? Was he formally trained to be an actor, or is he just like they saw him on the street, casted him as Hector, and then he just ran with it?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I mean, honestly, if you said either one, I would believe it.
Good answer.
Yeah, but I have no idea. But he was a cool dude, man. He was very chill. Like, you know, he was very cool. So I would be down to work with him for sure.
Oh, man, he's like a Shakespearean trained actor, and then they were like, "You're going to be Hector." He's like, "Okay."
That's happened to people before.
Absolutely. Oh man,
yep.
That's great. Well, and that's actually something I would love to see. If you make that happen, I will buy that Blu-ray in a heartbeat.
Right? Yeah, no, I would love to do something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to the distribution company. Maybe they'll be interested.
Man, so Tony G, he has the plaid button-up shirt with the top two buttons buttoned up, but then he has a necktie on because he has to look mayoral.
Oh, God.
Right?
Oh man, it's okay. These are all $1 million ideas. Take them. I'm giving them to you for free. Oh man. Oh.
Wow.
Man. And then Danny Trejo as the headmaster chef. You know how it says "kiss the cook," so it would have to say like, was it beso, dame un beso el chef?
Just the Grand Master, like, you know, you put him like in those old robes or whatever, and, like, make it look like, you know what I mean? But like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, there's been a million Chinese martial arts films. Like, let's just do one that's like Latino, and just kind of put them in this world, and I think it'd be hilarious.
Oh man, when you show off Danny Trejo's chef knives, he has to have a machete all the way on the top, though.
Right.
Just a giant inside joke. Oh man. God. I'm sorry, we're just like spitballing ideas now. But man, so it's and so what's funny is that you mentioned earlier that you're not a comedian, but you've got a funny bone to you. You could make it work.
Yeah, I'm kind of a smartass, but you know, what can you do, right? But like, it's weird because a lot of the when we premiered The Pining, I was a little bit worried about it because I didn't know how the audience was going to take it because, you know, it's such a different film, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just supernatural elements, mystery elements, you know, things like that. And I was like, it was really hard for me to describe it. But then, like, when we're showing it, I forget that a lot of this stuff is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, the audience, like, you know, they're picking up on these little things that I completely forget that were funny. And then, like, you know, they're laughing at the jokes and stuff like that. And I was like, holy shit. Like, it's completely different, like, watching it with an audience. The detective making all her snide remarks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, handicap jokes and stuff like that. I'm just like, I completely forget about it, and then the audience, you know, they see all these things that I forget about, and they're laughing, and I'm just like, I completely forgot how this works. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's good. It's a good feeling for sure.
Yeah, when she was walking down the jail cell, and then she took a bite at a dude's last meal, and she's just like, shit choice. I laughed.
Yeah.
I laughed.
Things like that I forget about, but then like the audience sees it and they're like, did she just eat his last meal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then with the guard, was it Dead Man Walking, and the guard said, "Hey, you're next." Like,
that was funny.
Yeah.
I loved that shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, I completely forget that we kind of break it up and stuff like that.
And I gotta ask you again, was that on the fly or was that actually scripted?
I believe that was all scripted.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is you writing these scripts.
Yeah, and you know what's weird though is it's funny because when I wrote The Pining, the detective characters, like, she was kind of just normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the original stuff when we first shot, like, I remember she was kind of like a hard-boiled detective and stuff like that. And when I wrote the script, you know, it's like, oh, a Latin photographer who's like bad and with his girlfriend. I was like worried how people are going to take this. I'm like, this is autobiography. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, don't read too much into it or whatever. You know, I'm not writing myself. But then, like, when me and Jackie were discussing the detective role, and she was like, okay, you know, what does she smoke cigarettes? But then, like, she doesn't have one, so she's stressed and everything like that. And so every time, like, we kind of see her and she's at work, she's unhappy, and I was like, yo, this is me at work. Like, I was like, I'm kind of right. I'm like, this character, I'm starting to gravitate towards because this is just how I act when I'm at work. I'm kind of a smart ass. I'm kind of like, this sucks. I want to go home. Like, and that's kind of how we took it. You know what I mean? She kind of does whatever she wants, and she's kind of like there. It's like, this is my job, but whatever. Like, and I was like, yo, I'm really having fun with this. And then that's when I started to write these little tidbits, like, about the, you know, eating the last meal and, you know, things like that.
Nice.
And I think it worked. I don't know. I'm hoping it did.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking too, and where I'm coming from with these questions is because I keep thinking about, like, No Country for Old Men, and I believe that was the Fargos, or the Fargo brothers, and they said that working with them is really intense because they give you, like, no freedom. They were like, you stick to the script and you had no questions could be asked, and so and then on the opposite end, we had Joaquin Phoenix when he was doing Joker just recently. And they said that when they did that fight scene, or at least when he was getting beat up, and, you know, they were like, beat him up, but make it look, you know, don't actually hurt him. And he's just all like, F that. Come at me, bro. And they wrote in the script, like, okay, Joaquin Phoenix, don't fight back. And he's all like, nah, that ain't authentic. I'm going to fight back. And so they said, like, these stunt people were getting frustrated, and they were like, we're trying to beat him up, but he's fighting back, so we're just going to beat him up even harder. And so that's why it was supposed to be a fake beating that kind of turned into a real beating, but Joaquin Phoenix was just like, nah, bro, come at me. So it's and so that's I guess my question / comment is kind of like, where would you fall in that spectrum? Are you like super strict, or are you kind of like, just let it play out and we'll make the best out of it? I guess that's where I'm kind of trying to get to.
And it's funny because you know, there's a story. So there's a story that Dustin Hoffman tells when he was on the set of The Marathon Man. With an actor, Laurence Olivier, you know, who was like one of the leading men of golden Hollywood and stuff like that, the golden age of Hollywood, you know, one of the most famous actors and stuff like that. And Dustin Hoffman was young and he was working with him. And like in the scene, you know, he's supposed to be running away, you know, stuff like that. And he's like, you know, supposed to be, you know, out of breath and everything like that, and sweaty and all nervous and whatever. And so he's running up downstairs, you know, getting himself ready for the scene. And Laurence Olivier goes, he's like, my God, son, what are you doing? He's all, well, I'm getting ready for my scene. You know, I'm getting myself out of breath and stuff like that. And then they go, so what do you do? And they go, and Laurence Olivier responds, well, I act. Like, I just act like I am. Like, how are you going to do all this? Just act like you are. Like, you know, you don't actually have to do it.
Right.
And, like, that, you know, it's weird because when I think about it, I'm like, you know, there's a certain amount of, like, that's a gold nugget, you know what I mean? To always kind of keep in your back pocket. And I'm just like, there's something to that. And when you know, my actors on set and stuff like that, I kind of want them to build their characters. You know, I give them the script, and I let them build their characters and kind of make decisions and stuff like that. But then when we're shooting the scene, if it's wrong, I'll mess with it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do my best to kind of get it right. Like, sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, a scene is supposed to be a certain way, and if they're way off, like, hey, let me see how we can get this on. Like, how can I direct them to get, you know, the truth out of the scene, like how it's supposed to be. But other times, like, you know, if they come in, they make the decisions and stuff like that, I kind of just like, okay, you know, we're just going to get a different angle, you know, things like that. Or if they kind of come up with their own stuff and it works, then I'm cool with that, you know. So it's just, I think that's kind of how I work. Where, yeah, it's just kind of like, basically, my mission is to make the scene work. And if the actors are on it, you know, even if the dialogue they're saying is different from the script, if it works, if they're on it, then there it is. But if, you know, they're doing a scene, and I'm just like, yo, this isn't it at all. Even if it's my dialogue or their dialogue, if it's just not right, then it's kind of like, okay, how do we change this? How do I make them act how I need them to act? Then, you know, we'll go over it for sure.
Okay. Wow. So it's kind of free. If it works, it works. If not, then you're going to change it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm
all out. You got it. That's all your questions.
Yeah, we've had this conversation going, and yeah, I feel like all my concerns and questions have been addressed. So.
Fair enough.
Nice. Okay. I guess this kind of goes off of the pining and stuff, and kind of goes to something I saw you post on Facebook a while ago about your top movies of, I guess, the year or the decade or something.
2019.
Yeah. This. I noticed that you had a lot of movies on there. Some of them were foreign movies. And one of them that really caught my eye, and I know this kind of goes back to what we usually talk about with anime and stuff, was Dragon Ball Super Broly.
Yeah.
That looked like it was actually pretty high on your list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What was it about it
funny because it's not even my favorite Dragon Ball Z movie.
No?
You know?
Which one would be your favorite?
I mean, I'm one of those, you know, I love them all, but I really enjoy Super Android 13.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a really good one.
I do love Super Android 13. I love the original Broly, and I do like the Bojack. Like, pretty much the ones with Future Trunks in, I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do like, you know, the original ones, like Tree of Life and stuff like that. But I feel like they're all kind of fun, you know what I mean? Like, the cooler ones are fun.
Right.
Yeah, they're all pretty cool, but I don't know. Super Android 13 is just, it hit at, like, the right time, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you watch a movie at the right moment of your life, and for some reason it becomes your favorite, you know?
Yeah. I think...
Yeah.
I know one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z movies is I can't remember the actual... Oh, Fusion Reborn, I think is what it's called in the English title. The one with Gogeta.
Yeah.
That's
a fun one, too. That's a good one, too.
Yeah. It's like... I don't know. Ever since I saw that, Gogeta became one of my favorite, like, Dragon Ball characters. So seeing him in Broly as an actual canon character now was, like, really great for me.
Yeah, like Super Broly, I mean, you know, of course, you know, I mean, they retcon the story and, like, no, nobody's fan of retcons, but,
right.
You know, you kind of like, okay, I get it, you know, let's just move on. But then, you know, you get to the Broly stuff, and I don't know, just sitting in a theater and watching Dragon Ball Z and just seeing the stuff that they made, like, I'm like, on my point of view of Broly right now, chasing Goku, like, this is amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was such a theatrical experience that I don't think I would have gotten at home watching it on video.
Right.
You know, just watching it on the big screen is just like, it's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like, I think that's why, you know what I mean? I loved it, and I ranked it high, you know what I mean? I think it's kind of like people, you know, maybe kind of the same thing with how people get from, like, the Avengers movies or something like that when they grew up reading those books or something like that, and then they finally see the characters come to life. Like, it's a surreal experience.
Definitely. Broly, I was one of the few movies I actually got to see in theater, and it was definitely one of the highlights of that year for me as well.
Yeah, this was such a fun experience for sure.
You actually touched upon a point too. I don't follow Dragon Ball Z these days, but if it was the best movie of 2019, the same year that gave us Avengers Endgame, and to rank DBZ over that, I mean, among other things, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I think I put Super Broly at number 3, and I think Endgame I put at like 5 or 6 or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
So they were pretty close to each other. But
yeah, Endgame.
Yeah.
I know there was a few people that were disappointed with it a little bit, especially after watching Infinity War and seeing how they treated.
Infinity War was just such a good Infinity War was so good, and then Endgame is good, but it's different, you know,
right?
Because they shift the characters. You know, Infinity War, Thor has more of an arc. It's more of his film with other characters. You know, part of it is Thanos and then Thor and like Gamora, versus Endgame where it's like, you know, Cap and Ant-Man and like, you know, Iron Man towards the end or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, other people are part of it, but then so just it was just very different. They, you know, and they had more to deal with. They had more because they had You know what I mean? They had to resolve a lot of things. So,
right.
like, there's almost no way it could be perfect. But there was a lot of fun stuff in it. You know, I love seeing Robert Redford, the elevator scene callback. You know what I mean? Like, all these little fun tidbits are great to see. But I don't know. I think my favorite from last year was Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay.
That was a racing
which
movie,
I didn't
right?
expect. I thought, you know, it was just a movie, and I'm like, okay, I'll go see it. And then it was just such a good movie. I mean, I was captivated throughout the entire flick, and I was like, yeah, I would definitely. I don't know that I know it's not going to win Best Picture, but I'm sure as hell glad that it got nominated because it was a damn good movie. I will sign off on that. And then Akira again. Like, I had such a good time with Akira, but cyberpunk is my shit. Like, that is my genre. I love it, and I'm happy that movie got made. And I'm all about it for sure.
Nice. I definitely have to check out that Ford versus Ferrari then.
Yeah,
because I don't know, not really much of a. It's a racing movie, right? About the.
Yeah, but it's just such a. God, man, you know, it's one of those movies where, you know, like, you root for the good guy and you want the bad guy to lose, and you don't get those anymore. Now they always want you to, like, empathize with the bad guy or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? This guy's a bad guy. I don't care. I want to, you know what I mean? But that movie, it makes you want the good guy to win and then the bad guy to lose. And it's kind of, and I'm like, this is an old school, like, feel good, captivating movie that they don't really make anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have noticed that where they try to make you feel bad for the villain.
You touched on a couple of points because in like even in anime to an extent, like when you're watching Cells at Work, which is just, you know, humanized cells in the human body, and they try to make you feel bad for cancer. Like, cancer's not a bad guy. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then it's the same thing. And then like we said, you watch Avengers, and it's like you got these fools that unironically like Thanos did nothing wrong. Thanos is right. Half the population is scum, and it's like, what are you talking about? But I'm also.
Or you guys.
Yeah.
You remember when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. And then they were like, oh, why is Tarantino, like, so violent against women or something like that? I'm all, there's a Manson family.
Yeah.
Why are you defending the Manson family? Like, no, they are bad. Like, they are historically bad people. We want bad things to happen to them. Like, no, you cannot defend the Manson family whatsoever. Like, shut up, lady. You know, like,
right? Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, God.
And I also agree with that too. It's like I love great strong villains, and then it makes the comeuppance that much bigger. And I kind of attest that to 80s action movies, you know, like Die Hard. Remember, it's like we finally got Hans Gruber, and so we shoot him and then throw him off the Nakatomi Tower. Or Die Hard 2, where, you know, yippee-ki-yay, say hello to your brother. And then that was Die Hard 3. Die Hard 3. But Die Hard 2 exploded the airplane with all the bad guys on it. So, you know, it's like that. You know, we say a one-liner, we blow them away, and we're glad we did it. That's what they deserve. And so that's kind of like my thing when it comes to bad guys. You know?
Yeah.
Like, let me hate them.
Yeah, it's they're the bad guy. They do bad things. We want them to get their comeuppance. You know? So, yeah. I agree. I agree with that. We don't always need to have sympathetic bad guys, man. Sometimes they're just bad guys.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, by the way, I'm glad that you don't do that in your movies, as of yet, at least. the snappy, snippy one-liners, then you blow away the bad guy.
I know. Who knows? Maybe in the martial arts movie. That'd be perfect.
Oh, man. Danny Trejo, justice is served. Boom.
Right. Boom.
But yeah. Anyways. Oh man. Yeah. I'm gonna crank out a script for that and propose it to you. I'll send it to you in a PDF.
Crazy,
Oh man.
Crazy.
Oh man. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, God. Okay. that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got, really. Because we touched about the movies.
Yeah.
You did say you had a few movies that you were working on. Do you want to, do you have one that's near finishing that you might want to get its name out and promote a little bit, or?
Yeah, it's like, well, Worth and Pining are out, but the next one that I'm releasing, it's going to be like an Uber driver serial killer movie. It's going to be called Ride Scare.
Okay.
And we should be having that out in a few months, and it'll be different than what I've done before, but I'm pretty sure it's like our best film, at least, you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty solid film, you know, from the cinematography to the acting, and just, it was such a fun thing to do, and it's so, man, I'm trying to go for, it's weird, because we're going for that, you know, a lot of people are doing, like, the 80s throwback horror movie thing, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like that,
Okay.
but it's in the technological age of now. You know what I mean? Like, it's in, like, the Silicon Valley type world now.
Okay.
But the music and, you know what I mean, the feeling, it kind of has that old Jason, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers type vibe, and that's kind of, I really wanted to play with those worlds, and so I'm excited to see what you guys think about it.
All right. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that comes out in a couple of months?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping, I don't know, I have to actually talk to the distribution company. Maybe, hopefully by summertime.
Okay.
Cool. We'll have to check that out.
What's funny is that this morning I was actually talking to my mom about my upcoming trips, and so I was talking about EVO in Las Vegas. EVO is like a fighting game tournament. It's international. They do it at Mandalay Bay. And last year, we had a friend that after the tournament was over, we all left on Monday because the tournament ended on Sunday, but we stayed an extra day. She stuck around because she had some friends that live in Vegas and she wanted to go visit them. She could not find a rideshare that would take her from Mandalay Bay to the suburbs. And I was just dumping on him like this. She's so sweet and so nice, and she just wants to go visit her friends, and they would not take the fare because they don't want to leave the strip, because going from the suburbs back to the strip means they're losing money. And now I'm like,
that's fine.
And now you're proposing this movie, or your project is coming out, and I'm like, what did we just say? We want bad things to happen to bad people. So I hope this movie villain gets what's coming to him.
You know, I do believe in bad guys getting their comeuppance.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
I think it'll surprise you, but it'll also make you happy.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
I'm done with that.
Done with that.
I'm down with that. I like that.
All right. And that's called Ride Scare?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
you hear that, everybody. In a couple of months, hopefully by summer, go check out Ride Scare. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all we have.
Yeah, this was fun.
I hope you had a good time. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Fun time, guys.
All right. So we're gonna end this really quick, and then probably just talk to you for a little bit afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah. And thanks for doing this, man. It's like I said, I think Roman is kind of on the same page, but it's like you don't often get to go into the mind of someone on the other side of the camera.
Exactly.
And in your case, you're all over because you're inside, outside, offside the camera. And so I appreciate the insight, the mentality, just all of it. I think that it's great, and I right now on the mic, I do want to wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors.
Exactly.
And I think that Roman and I here on the Mystic podcast, or the Mystics, Anime Mystics, we wish you all the best.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it, fellas. Appreciate it.
All right. So we're gonna get out of here, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Eduardo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Eduardo,
Yes.
for coming on.
Yes.
And see you next time.
Catch you on the next one, guys.
Bye.